Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another RPG News Roundup, this time for September 28th, 2024, where each week I take a look back at the week in tabletop, computer, and console role-playing game news and bring you the highlights. As always, we will start with computer and console role-playing game news. It looks like farming sim Fae Farm is getting a release on PlayStation 4, PS5, Xbox One, and the Series X/S on October 22nd. It has been available on the PC and the Switch since last year. It has you on an enchanted island where you build a homestead, explore the land, gather resources, and so forth. The world of Kung Fu Dragon and Eagle is set to launch on October 24th. It has been in early access for a couple of years now. It is a turn-based wuxia RPG inspired by 1990s RPGs. Horizon Zero Dawn is set to get a remaster released in October 31st. It'll target the PC, PS5, and it'll include graphics improvements as well as some re-recorded conversations and motion capture. Albatross is set for release on November 1st. It'll target the PC, PS5, as well as the Series X/S. It follows a young woman on a quest to find her lost brother who are looking for a mythical albatross mountain. Sengoku Dynasty looks like it's getting a console release. It'll include all of the content on the PC version, which is currently in early access, but is set for launch in November. The console release will be targeted for sometime next year. So the PC version will launch in November. The console release will be targeted next year. Fantasian Neo Dimension is set to release in December. It'll hit the PC, PS4, PS5, Series X/S, as well as the Switch on December 7th. It is an enhanced version of an Apple Arcade title from a couple of years ago. Glorious Companions is set to hit early access this December. It is a tactical RPG turn-based set in a fantasy world where you lead a mercenary company. Tales of Grace's F is set for release on January 17th of 2025. It is a remaster of Tales of Grace's F. So it's Tales of Grace's F remastered. It'll be a remaster of Tales of Grace's F, which I think was a re-release of something itself. So this, yeah, okay. Phantom Brave, The Lost Hero, looks like it'll be released on January 30th of 2025. It'll hit the PS4, PS5, as well as the Switch, with a PC release to follow sometime in spring. Wizardry, The Five Ordeals, will be getting a Switch release. It'll target January 30th of 2025 for Japan. We'll have to see if it gets a Western localization. Cladoon X3 is set to release in Japan for PS4 and PS5 and the Switch on February 27th. No word yet on whether it'll get a Western release, but its predecessors, Cladoon and Cladoon X2, have in the past. I remember playing the original Cladoon back on the PSP back in the day and really enjoying it, but I never got into the sequel. Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, is set to release on Switch on April of next year. It is a life sim RPG follow-up to the 3DS era Fantasy Life. It looks like Lunar Remastered Collection will be coming out, targeting the PC, PS5, PS4, and the Switch sometime in spring of next year. It'll contain remasters of Lunar Silver Star Story Complete and Lunar 2 Eternal Blue Complete, along with widescreen support, enhanced pixel art, some animated cutscenes, and new English voice acting, and various other quality of life improvements. So there's that. Atelier Resleriana, The Red Alchemist, and The White Guardian looks like it'll release sometime in 2025 for the PC, PS4, PS5, and Switch. It'll be an offline featuring an original story entry into the Atelier series, but set in the same universe as the free-to-play mobile title, and also PC title now, Atelier Resleriana, Forgotten Alchemy, and The Polar Knight Liberator. These titles are getting kind of ridiculous. Underkeep is set for release next year. It'll looks like it'll be a pixel art, first-person grid-based, turn-based blobber, which I'm actually kind of interested in now. I'm going to go ahead and add it to my wish list. Inazuma 11, the first title in the soccer RPG series, looks like it's going to get a remake planned for sometime in 2026. It'll target the PC, PS4, PS5, and the Switch. It was originally a Nintendo DS era game. Tenet of the Spark was announced. No launch window besides simply sometime in 2026 was mentioned, but it will target the PC and certain consoles yet to be named. It deals with a boxer who is standing up to street gangs who can also call upon the spirits of his ancestors from the distant past. Archage Chronicles was announced. It will be an MMORPG, effectively Archage 2, sequel to the Archage MMORPG from 2014. Holy Horror Mansion was announced. It will be a cross-media project. One of them will be a sort of Ghostcraft RPG. It'll deal with a young fellow that lives in a mansion on top of an apartment building owned by his grandmother who becomes involved with ghosts. The young man, not the grandmother. I think the grandmother was already involved, but that's okay. Pathbreakers, Roaming Blades was announced. It'll be a turn-based tactical RPG where you head up a group of mercenaries. Yet another of these. Nice. It'll let you hire a crew, train them, gear them up, etc. Threads of Time will be a turn-based JRPG inspired by the classics where you voyage through time, gathering your party of heroes and mean to uncover a plot against the entire timeline. Hike, Northern Lights, will apparently be a pixel art action RPG. No release window is set for it yet, but it will be on a world devastated by a war between humans and witches. Clown King will be a tactical RPG inspired by Brazilian culture. It is available to wishlist on Steam. It has you leading a performing troupe of clowns through a kingdom in a rebellion against your father. As far as actual releases go, Remnant 2 got DLC called The Dark Horizon. Remnant 2 being an action RPG / shooter, kind of semi-Souls-like. And indeed, another DLC, this time for Rogue Trader from the Warhammer 40,000 universe, it's called Void Shadows, saw its release. It looks like Greedfall 2 hit early access, sequel to Greedfall, the original, of course. It has you playing an islander, finding your freedom, and exploring the old continent. It looks like Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, as well as the various Legends of Mana Remastered and Trials of Mana titles, got a release on the Xbox Series X/S. They have been available on other platforms for quite some time now. Far Horizon saw its release as an action-adventure RPG in space on a world of floating islands, various alien creatures, and so forth. Rei Natus is an action RPG with JRPG stylings in which a version of Shibuya Tokyo has real magic. Beyond Galaxy Land is a 2.5D RPG inspired by classic sci-fi movies where you play a high schooler who has been uprooted from Earth to Galaxy Land, a sort of zoo of planets, and must find a way to save the Earth itself. The Nameless Slay Dragon saw its release. It is a turn-based RPG with tabletop RPG elements inspired by Ruina and mostly by a solo developer. And Dragonero was a release, or Dragonero. It is a classic turn-based RPG where you explore dungeons, plan journeys, all in an open world with turn-based combat. Starveil Protocol, AAA, is a visual novel-style RPG inspired by classic PC-98 text adventures, set on a cyberpunk world where you are an enforcer for an interstellar trading giant. Book of Hours got an expansion, The House of Light, which takes place in 1937, where notables of the occult underworld are looking for new weapons and paths and look to the player character for help. Umbra, The Last Summoner, is an early access and is a turn-based, party-based Souls-like. I don't know how that works, turn-based Souls-like. Anyway, you apparently can summon various unique heroes, engage in turn-based combat, explore various areas, and so forth. Witchfire is a first-person RPG shooter or shooter with RPG elements where you play as a sinner turned to witch hunter. It is an early access. A Hunter's Tale is a VR-based RPG where you battle various beasts, conquer challenges, and so forth, all in first person, requiring a VR headset. Rogue Citadel is a tower defense action roguelike bullet hell style thing where you basically try to collect items, create various synergies to face hordes of enemies. Bloomtown, A Different Story, is a narrative JRPG with turn-based combat and monster taming elements. It is set in a sort of 1960s Americana-style world with a sort of demonic undertone. Another Realm is an action JRPG with a party basis where you awaken in a land after your boat has been wrecked and you don't remember what has happened. Magic Cauldron Dungeons is a classic dungeon crawler with pixel art stylings based on old grid crawlers. Lost in Fantaland is a roguelike game with deck building elements where you choose a unique character and go on randomly generated adventures. Mind of War is a turn-based tactical RPG in a fantasy realm where you basically war with different factions. Rune Colosseum is a deck-building roguelike with a semi-real-time combat system where you play an ancient gladiator. Tomomon Legacy is a light pixel art creature collector-style game, if you haven't identified it from the title. Finally, there is Elmarion The Lost Temple, a first-person party-based RPG where you take a party of 4 characters to explore various dungeons, face monsters, and solve puzzles. And with that, I'll move on to tabletop RPG news. It looks like the Dungeon Master's Guide for D&D 2024 will be getting previews starting on October 1st for those who are interested in it. Also, D&D Beyond has a new free D&D adventure for D&D 2024 featuring the 1980s cartoon characters called Save Uni's Horn. Honestly, remembering the 1980s cartoon, Uni's Horn can stay lost, as far as I care. And now onwards towards minor and PDF releases, Frog God Games has Renewal at Crater Lake. Available in 5th edition, Castles and Crusades, an OSR version, is centered around a village home to some reclusive elves, which are apparently suffering from a strange illness. Kelphicil's Tales, once more, has some 5th edition adventures up. There is River Shimmer, Rust and Blood, Scarlet Blitz, School's Out, Search for the Ring, and Serpentine Song. Eric Peterson has a few offerings for 5th edition. War of the Stones, The Pirates of Quintharion is a sandbox-style seafaring adventure with naval combat, pirate factions, and legendary relics. It is designed for levels 5 to 15. There's also Chronicles of Quintherion, which includes 10 plus unique one-shot adventures within the same overall setting. Grimm Press has Unearthed Spoils number 25, another offering for 5th edition, this one called Unholy Rebirth. It revolves around various necromancy things, including the Dirge Singer Bard-type tradition of the Veil, ritual, attendant background, various new necromantic spells, new items, a 7th level adventure, and some undead creatures. Citadel of the Unseen Sun, Episode 5, City of Decadence, is a continuation of a 5th edition adventure series, which is quickly coming towards its end. I think there's just one more entry left. Beneath the Big Top is a 3-act adventure and circus compendium for 5th edition, revolving around circus, of course. Critical Kit has a 5th edition one-shot bundle of 7 adventures. There's Dark Heart of Roscom, a Lock-In at the Blind Raven, the Frozen Beacon, Mac Death, House of Cursed Things, A Long Night at the Spur, and Lady Travant's Bones. Ironwick 5th edition mystery, number 9. The Prisoner in the Plaster Mask is another 5th edition adventure based on the Sherlock Holmes series. Tales of the Hanging Tree is a set of 5 grimdark adventures for 5th edition from Arklands Online. Shadows of Convergence, Rise of the Dragon God, is a 5th edition setting that details various regions, factions, monsters, lost secrets, as well as new classes, spells, and magic items. Elfie Punk has a set of solo 5th edition adventures. There's a trio of them: Festival of Aelin Fairpath, Into the Dwarven Halls, and the Drow Conspiracy. There's also available a single bundle with all 3 of them. The Infernal Tome is available as print on demand. It is a 5th edition guidebook with new character options, systems, a bunch of creatures designed around being in Hell. There's also the Circles of Hell, which details each of the individual Circles of Hell, as well as relevant NPCs, quests, new challenges, and so forth. Scoundrel Game Labs has a couple of additions into their Griselda's Guide to Ghost Hunting offering. There's Griselda's Lost Journals, which includes new subclasses, magic items, sidekicks, and so forth that couldn't fit in the original tome. And then there is Griselda's Ghostly Encounters, which includes a series of random encounters focused on the supernatural. Sea Beast Compendium is what it says on the tin, a collection of 45 sea-based monsters for 5th edition. Terra has another entry into their compendium series that focus on different classes. This one is focused on fighters for 5th edition. The Dune Scion is a 5th edition class dealing with fire, sand, and glass magic, as well as 3 archetypes based on Middle Eastern lore and myth. Way of the Werebear is a monk tradition for 5th edition, dealing with a monk cursed with lycanthropy. Mixed Beginnings is a collection of backgrounds for 5th edition. This time focuses for the 2024 edition, with the changes put into that. I believe it had come out in an earlier version for generic 5th edition. Darridan's Evolving Wands is a collection of 5th edition wands, including ways to level them up. Magitech Implants is a collection of rules, implants, and effects for 5th edition, basically based on magically based cybernetic implants. Use that term too much in there. Anyway, Let the Games Begin is a collection of mini-games and challenges for 5th edition with a variety of themes. Goodman Games has a few offerings up. There's a yearbook number 11, which collects material for Dungeon Crawl Classics 5th edition and pretty much everything taken from the past year releases. There's also Dungeon Crawl Classics Dying Earth number 10, Passage to the Manse of Erudite Wonderment, a 2nd level adventure for the Dying Earth setting. Dungeon Crawl Classics Lankmar number 15, The House of Jade and Shadow, is the 1st level adventure for that setting. And finally, Mutant Crawl Classics number 15 is The Mutant Menace of Lab 47, a 3rd level adventure for Mutant Crawl Classics RPG. Wayward Studios has From Out of Nowhere, Book 1, a Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG that is the first part of a 3-part arc dealing with gnolls. Hallowfell, 0-level monster folio for Shadow Dark RPG is exactly what it says. A collection of 0-level creatures for the Hallowfell setting for the Shadow Dark RPG. Veneranda Isle is a location and setting guide compatible with Knave 2nd edition, Cairn, and similar OSR style systems. Modern Necessities Professional Edition is an OSE compatible offering that provides rules, gear, classes, and more to run a modern style system using old school essentials. Crypt of Kursaba is an Argosa adventure, more an adventure framework with various sites and scenarios, but with room for it to adapt, similar to prior offerings from Pickpocket Press. The Bandit King is a scenario compatible with Worlds Without Number, revolving around an area with bandit camps. The Starlit Spire is an OSR style adventure designed for Dungeoneering rule set, but with similar sorts of systems also available. The OSR Gunslinger is just that, a class designed for OSR systems that deals with a gunslinger style class. Wares of Wonder is a supplement for Dragonbane that details various magical items, some sets of armor and weapons, some instruments, some new animals, some medicines, rules for non-iron weapons and armor, and optional rules for magic and metal. The Moon Under the Mountain is a Dragonbane adventure originally written for the Dungeon 23 challenge from last year, dealing with a dwarf city that was conquered by goblins and the old caves around it. Dragon Head Master's Guide is a master's guide for the Dragon Head old school rule set. Sword Opera Ashcan Edition is an RPG where you play skilled paragons, balancing ambitions and loyalty to your allies, and dealing with various social situations, as well as the usual adventure in a sort of opera theme. In the Court of the Fairy Queen is both a setting and a rules-light system inspired by Labyrinth, fairy tales, and so forth. The Mad Necromancer's Basement is a system-neutral dungeon and bestiary that can be adapted to a wide variety of fantasy systems. Through the Hedgerow is a sort of RPG of rustic fantasy that deals with time travel and supernatural adventure. The Harbor Town is a hack-and-slash solo adventure roguelike fantasy gamebook. It does require the hack-and-slash core system to be able to use it. Green Ronin has Fantasy Age Cthulhu Mythos, a collection of cosmic horror options, magic, and other elements to provide sort of mythos horrors and sorts in a sword and sorcery game. Worm version 1.2 is a very slight revision of an Ice Age role-playing game system originally offered by Nocturnal Media in 2018, with a few typos, some minor modifications, some new layout, and under a different publisher. They also have Tales of the Ancestors, which collects the 2 issues of the Voice of the Ancestors for the Worm role-playing in the Ice Age. Vermilion, A Blood Hunt for Savage Worlds, is a gothic horror adventure module based on an original one-shot released back in 2020. It's designed to take 1 to 3 sessions to complete. Sleepless Suffering is a Candela Obscura assignment where a hospital has been overwhelmed by an epidemic of insomnia. Call of Cthulhu, The Order of the Stone, is a 3-part horror mystery for 1920s-era investigators. The Missing Cat is a third-party adventure for Call of Cthulhu 7th edition set in a quiet town in Maine where a cat has gone missing with a mysterious necklace on it. Dirty Vortex has a few RPG offerings. There's Solemn Vale, a horror role-playing game set in southwest England, and then Summer of Strange, an RPG set in 1985, where you play adolescents in a world where reality is starting to come undone. Mists in Memory will be a noir tabletop RPG about a group of investigators seeking their fortunes on the city of a street that's always being destroyed and created. City of Mist Local Legends is an expansion for City of Mist that offers new districts and one-shots. The Source for Scion 2nd Edition in Dragon offers various story hooks, information about a haven for animals, mythic creatures, and legendary beasts, and the associated material to run it. Essence 20 has 2 crossover offerings. There is Worlds Collide, a battle for the multiverse adventure for Power Rangers, Joe, and Transformers. Then there's Cobra Con Fusion Adventure Cross. It's crossover with G.I. Joe and Transformer characters. I want to see one with Transformers and My Little Pony. That would be hilarious. Atomic Punk 2240 is a post-apocalyptic RPG set in an alternate future where the nuclear war happened in the 1990s. Finally, there is The God Themselves, a tech level 16 to 19 setting for the Cepheus engine-style RPGs. And with that, we'll go on to crowdfunding campaigns. Remember that contributing to a crowdfunding campaign should be done only at your own risk. Doing so is no guarantee of even receiving a product mentioned here is not an endorsement, but is for informational purposes only. And this week, a few computer and console RPGs caught my eye. Pathfinder, The Dragon's Demand, will be a CRPG based on the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remastered rules with a sort of digital miniature style aesthetic. Then My Time at Evershine will be the next entry into the My Time series of sandbox simulation RPGs. Forge of the Fae will be a Celtic-inspired pixel art RPG dealing with ancient Fae magic as well as steampunk. Heroes of the Dark Prophecy will be a story-driven RPG in a dark medieval world. Then there's Nexacrypt, a pixel art RPG inspired by Mother and early Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest games. Onward towards tabletop campaigns, The Torture of Marlowin will be a dark fantasy 5th edition adventure. Emir's Flying Castle will be a short 5th edition adventure dealing with old curses and strange places. Hill Giant's Tears will be a one-shot adventure for 5th edition as well as Shadow Dark scaled for mid-level characters. The Wreck of the Shadow Tide will be a one-shot 5th edition adventure for level 3 characters dealing with the location of a legendary ghost ship. Chasing Clouds will be a 5th edition adventure for level 1 to 4 players level 1 to 4 characters dealing with finding an ancient secret. It will be suited to start new players out. And Dire Into the Wilds will be a Dire North Into the Wilderness will be funding a prelude to the Bay of Spirits. It'll feature an expedition focused on exploration, survival, and conquest. It'll be a guidebook to the region, including various new subclasses, dozens of creatures, adventure tools and tips, some solo adventures, some faction adventures, and so forth. And although I wonder, because it says system neutral, and yet it looks like it actually includes statted subclasses, so go figure. Empire of the Undying Sun will be definitely a 5th edition horror-themed campaign with some new systems. It details campaigns set in the South Bay, or set around South Bay, a town rife with cults and crime syndicates, the Great Ocean, a stretch of water, as well as the Empire of the Undying Sun, an ancient nation. Urban resources look to be a collection of resources for cities with tokens, NPCs, locations, monsters, items, festivities, guilds, and so on. Enter the Labyrinth will be a 5th edition and Tales of the Valiant compatible expansion in adventure from Kobold Press, which will include new magic, new kinds of heroes, and an epic campaign. Divinium will be a magic system overhaul for 5th edition, designing it into a sort of cultivation system with various paths, monsters, and magic. A Bestiary of Companions will be a collection of 40-plus companions with their own characteristics, adventure hooks, random tables, and so forth for 5th edition. Tome of Skills will be a system to expand the use of skills as well as the consequences of both critical successes and failures for 5th edition. It includes various skill quests as well. The Alchemist's Arsenal will be a collection of unique potions, ingredients, and magical enhancers suited for 5th edition but also likely useful for other systems. Master of the Dungeon will be a collection of 8 5th edition D&D books within the same series designed to help dungeon mastering skills. Wrath of the Sea Lich will be a Shadowdark adventure within Luke Gygax's world of Okarim. Larillion the Lion will be a campaign setting for Shadowdark RPG, designed around a city setting with a couple of new classes, some standalone adventures, and so forth. The Sword of Valis will be an old-school module designed for old-school centrals and similar systems and will be the second part of a trilogy. Mythmere Games is looking to fund the Tome of World Building, a set of system-neutral sourcebooks designed for detailing fantasy worlds that can be used for pretty much any fantasy game. It will also include guidelines for creating amazing names as well. Plug and Play Dungeons Volume 3 will be a collection of system-neutral dungeons, useful for anything for 5th edition to OSR to other tabletop RPGs. That includes names, dungeon system, backgrounds, factions, and NPCs, read-aloud descriptions, and so forth. True D6 Plus 1 will be a supplement for True D6 and will include new classes, various new specializations, and 4 one-shot dungeons. Reforged RPG will be an adaptable tabletop RPG system with a skill-based characters, a collection of deities, a grimoire of sword and sorcery, rituals, or grimoire of sorcery and ritual spells. I keep on adding sword and to any time I see sorcery. Anyway, The Between will be a tabletop RPG about monster hunters in Victorian-era London, inspired by such things as Penny Dreadful, British horror classics, and so forth, based on the Brindlewood Bay rules. Weird West Companion, Deadlands, will be apparently getting an audiobook if the funding goes off. Basically, a professionally narrated audiobook in the Weird West Companion for Savage Worlds. Finally, there is Paragons, the role-playing game, a heroic tabletop RPG inspired by classic superhero cartoons and movies. And with that, I will wrap things up here. This has been the RPG Crawler with my RPG News Roundup for September 28th, 2024. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment, got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content. Until next time, take care and goodbye. And if you are still watching, I would like to take the opportunity to thank my supporters, the top tiers of which are listed on the screen, without whose support I would not have been able to offer the variety of content that I have on this channel throughout the years. If you're feeling particularly generous and would like to join them, you can support the channel. There are a variety of options to do so. I have a Patreon, a Subscribestar, as well as channel memberships enabled. If you are not in a position to contribute, simply leaving a like, a comment, or sharing my videos are all wonderful ways to help the channel grow without spending a dime, and are all greatly appreciated.